I'm on the trail of the Old Ghan rail route between Port Augusta and Alice Springs. My goal is to provide a visual record of as many of the sidings, fettlers cottages and other rail infrastructure that I can identify between those two places. Many of the places I've visited are accessible to any who have the means to get to them and are in close vicinity to the major road networks of the state of South Australia. Others are on private pastoral land, and I've sought and received permission to access them from the various landowners and or managers. In every case, I've been welcomed and have received the greatest hospitality from them, and I've been able to gain access to some wonderfully forgotten ruins that not many people get to see. Previously in episode 6, we visited the Margaret Bridge, the Margaret Fettlers Cottage, the Coward Springs Station, the Beresford Fettlers Cottage, Strangway Siding, the Rapatana Fettlers Cottage, William Creek Siding, and the Fettlers Cottages at Anna Creek, Box Creek and Bothana. Before I go any further, I should acknowledge the now glaring error throughout my exploration of the Old Ghan route, and that is that I've been mispronouncing the name of the damn thing. It's pronounced as Ghan, as in the Afghan Express, and not Ghan, as I've been doing. I've corrected this embarrassing anomaly in any voiceover that I've made, but I'm afraid any 2-camera footage made at the time has my bumbling mistake recorded for posterity. Sorry about that. Stay with me now as we jump back into the time machine, rewind 6 weeks and return to our August trip. We had camped the night in the shadow of the Bothana cottage and awoke to a crystal clear sunrise that lit the walls up with a golden glow. This old ruin was built in 1890 and so far has stood sentinel here for 133 years, which means that it's seen that spectacle a little over 48,500 times. Wow. We left Bothana and made our way north on Oodnadatta track, and now we're just stopping and having a quick look at what I've named as the Duff Creek Bridge. And Duff Creek's just the next siding just down the track. And in fact this is the Duff Creek, so I'm actually on the money with its name. It's a sort of box girder design and has been thoughtfully deconstructed here at this end just so you can see how it's all made. In fact, they have been gas axe cut. Obviously needed a bit of steel for something, and that was it. At 115 metres, it's a reasonably sized one, certainly in the top 20 lengthwise. Old Duff Creek siding. Not a lot left of the siding, there's that pile of rubble there. And this is the point where it crosses back over to the other side of the Oodnadatta track and heads off to Peake. We're now at Edwards Creek. The siding is just off to our left. We're going down here quickly to have a look at the associated bridge across a rather large creek. close look at this. The bridge has an associated cemetery with it. Just up here at the top. 2 graves here. There's nothing on this one to indicate who it was or when, and same with this one. Odd place to be buried. That tree probably wasn't there when this was a going concern. Another box girder type construction. This time the farmer hasn't seen the need to pinch a whole bunch of steel panels. Another one of those man versus nature things where nature wins every time. At 200 metres, the Edward Creek Bridge ranks number 4 in length. 3 if you only count the ones that exist today. Only the ones at Algebuckina and Curdymerca are longer. Turning our attention back to the siding now, we found it to be completely fenced off and could only see it from a small parking area off the Unadilla track. The site is one of the largest and most intact complexes on the Old Ghan line, and its preservation is probably largely due to it being unavailable to the public. And although we couldn't physically get to it to actually touch it, I could fly my drone there for a closer look. Edward Creek siding was built in 1889 as one of the more significant maintenance centres along the Great Northern Railway and became a major stopping place between Maree and Unadilla during the Second World War. It contains one of only 2 surviving station buildings on the railway, as well as one of only 3 Kennecott water softeners in South Australia. There's also a variety of railway technology and the ruins of the largest housing complex on the line. The whole line was serviced by water tanks every 50 miles, and fettlers' cottages about 10 miles apart. Edward Creek Station was one of the more significant maintenance centres, with one of the 12 water tanks on the line and one of the large fettlers' cottages. This one housed 24 employees. When the Commonwealth Railways took over operation of the line in 1926, they shut down most of the stations and fettlers' cottages, but Edward Creek remained open. From 1942, Commonwealth Railways upgraded facilities to the line to carry increased tonnage. Edward Creek now became the major stopping place between Maree and Unadilla, with a coal bin, new crossing lines and goods handling platforms. It became a crude change station as well, and 3 timber houses were built for staff and crew accommodation.
We're now at Warrina siding. A few rusty round relics and something for an old bullock dray. The siding itself is just rubble and located on the side of the road over there. Another one of Adam Plate's signs telling everyone the ins and outs and what's going on along the Woodnowder track. Very informative when they were upkept. Sadly Adam passed away several years ago and the signs just haven't been updated or repainted, and they've lost their appeal. You can imagine, I'd have thought this would be your usual 6-room Fettler's cottage affair. It's in need of a little TLC at the moment. But as usual, the chimney is still standing. They should build buildings out of chimneys. They certainly stand the test of time.
This had me a little confused at first. Just after the ruins of the Warrina Fettler's cottage, we came across a Ghan tank, standing by itself, and it wasn't until later that I realised it must have been associated with the Warrina siding, even though the two are separated by just over a mile, or some 1,700 metres. Something else struck me as we approached it, and that is that it seems to have had the top half of it removed for whatever reason, so it's only a half tank. Again, it wasn't until I got home and looked into it further that I discovered this is apparently built this way, or at least according to a heritage survey report I managed to find. However, that was compiled in 2001, so it seems possible that the top half has been removed prior to then, though I'm at a loss as to why or how they would do that. But it just doesn't make any sense to have been constructed like that in the first place and be different from every other tank on the line. 'Tis a puzzlement.
Here's the railway line right there. Chuffing off into oblivion.
The tank also had a bridge nearby across the Bungadillina Creek, so we checked that out as well. From this perspective, it looks quite long, but at only 76 metres, it only ranks at number 28 in the bridge length hierarchy.
Searching for the Peake Creek siding now. We're pretty close to it. We're 700 metres away. Oh, I can see a telegraph pole. Oh, and guess what? We're driving on the railway line. This is Peake Creek siding. The rail line remains.
This Fettler's cottage was built in 1891 and was finally abandoned in 1926. Like all the others we've encountered so far, it's constructed of local random stone and most likely housed the usual suspects, that is a gang of 12 fettlers, usually made up of 10 gangers, a foreman and a cook. Just on fettlers in general, as you've seen of the line up to now, and it gets worse the further we go north, it's very remote country, especially in the late 1800s. Gangs were required to live along the track to respond quickly when repairs were required. Washaways when it flooded and bent track when the heat buckled it. The life of a fettler was far from glamorous. Their back-breaking work in the hot desert sun, miles from any settlements, attracted a unique set of people. And I found this great quote in the 2001 Oodnadatta Track Heritage Survey report that said, "Not all of the men attracted to a career as a fettler on the Oodnadatta Railway were model citizens, and the social life of these camps could be a little rough around the edges." I can only imagine.
We found another bridge. It's got water in. What's a river that's got water in it? We're going to find some shade just up here and do lunch. What there is.
This next one is another that was not marked or mentioned on the maps and notes that I had while planning this trip, but which again revealed itself whilst I was down in the weeds on Google Earth. I was in no doubt that this was again Fettler's cottage and obviously resolved to visit it. Further research when I got home revealed it as the Peake Creek North siding and dates similar to its southern cousin, that is 1891 to 1926.
Almost got a roof on it. 4 or 5 sheets of wrinkly tin left. And the line of the rail I'm actually standing on. Doesn't look like it's got long to stand. Probably caught this ruin in the Tada nick of time. It won't be too much longer before it's a crumbled wreck. I've been up and down the Unadilla track several times, never known this was here, just off the road. It's amazing what you find when you go looking for stuff. Speared off the track, we're now coming into this siding of Algebuckina.
This Fettler's cottage is of similar age to the two Peake Creek ones we've just visited. Built in 1891 and abandoned in 1926. And like the Peake Creek building, I think we've filmed it in the Tada nick of time. Most of the mortar holding the base together is gone, and it'll only be a relatively short time before gravity does its thing, and we'll be just left with a pile of rubble. These comparison photos of today, compared from, I presume, back in 2000, show the rate of deterioration in only 23 years. The stonework under the windows has collapsed, and the right hand or southern end has crumbled significantly. Another 20 years and it'll all be rubble, I reckon.